latest Bronze and Modern Gods. I'm John. That's over there is Richard. That's over there.
Hi, John. How are you?
I just lost my ability to speak, but I'm happy to be here. You know, maybe a minor brain aneurysm. I'm not sure. Hey, while you're recovering from your stroke, why not follow us on Bronze and Modern Gods on Facebook and Instagram? Give us a like, subscribe. We love you. Please be our friend. Will you?
Please. Will you be? Will you be?
Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform while you're at it. It's a bonus episode. Your questions, your comments. We also have the Instagram Market Watch with Ali from Elite_Comics, showcasing more huge sales this week. And our guest for the underrated book of the week segment is Trader Bill Comics from Elite Comics 11-2. Hey, they're not paying us, all right? Just
yeah, it's definitely an all elite show today.
Unless Richard got slipped a 20 somewhere. But first, once again, we have breaking news. Oh, Richard, did you have the same reaction I had today on Thursday when you got the email from CGC that they're now going to grade video games?
It's like, we've talked about this. This is like Nero fiddling while Rome burns. Let's add new things that we don't have the people to be able to process to our list of things that we do.
Why did they announce this when they're so backed up? It looks so bad.
It looks terrible. There are people out there who are turning away from CGC because of the turnaround time right now. And instead of fixing that, they're out there looking to add new services. They're going to take away people they already have on staff to do that. It's crazy.
I get why they did it. I'm in business myself. I work in marketing. I know how these things work. They have new owners. They have new shareholders. They want to impress them with another revenue stream that's coming. It was probably planned before the acquisition, and they want to get out there and make some noise. However, as a marketer, here is how you do it. Free advice, CGC. Actually, you can give me a $500 credit on my grading going forward. You announce it the same time you announce all of the new grading hires that you just got for the comic books. It's aimed that way. We're doing this, and we're also doing this. We hear you. We listen to you. We've got this handled, but get excited because we're hiring more graders for video games too. That's how you position it. That's how you make it seem palatable. You don't send out an email saying, hey, remember those books you sent us in March that we're still sitting on? We're grading video games now.
Okay, I just checked. The current turnaround time for economy, which is anything over 1975, is 153 days. Fast track, you pay an extra $15, and can you reduce that to 131 days?
I'm not laughing at them. I'm laughing at them.
That's what you fix. That's what you take care of. You take care of your core business before you start branching onto other opportunities. Shut it down. I would recommend at this point, just stop receiving new books and just process what's in it, what you've got already in-house, which is an unbelievable load.
We have talked about that. We've suggested that. That was before the acquisition. I'm telling you, it will never, ever happen now.
Yeah, now it won't, unfortunately. And I don't know if they could hire enough people in the short term to really make a dent in that, because you still got to train these people. You bring them on board. You've got to get them to what I would consider the minimal level of expertise necessary to provide accurate grading. You're not going to get superstars out of the new hires yet. So, it's going to take a while for them to ramp up and eat away at that backlog. But 153 days is just unacceptable for a business.
I have to wonder if it is affecting the influx of new submissions, because you and I have talked on the side. I've got almost a short box of books here that are supposed to be there right now getting graded, and I'm not sending them in. I'm not. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I had 40 books that I was going to send in pre-screen, and it was easier for me. I could sell them. They're raw, obviously. I could sell them and make my money back, as opposed to submitting them to CGC. They add an extra 15 days, I think it is, for pre-screens. It would be sometime next year before they came back. And they're just not willing to sit on books for that long.
Now, there's the sneaky way of adding an express book in your box so they receive it and open it first. You didn't hear it from me, but I don't even have the patience for that right now.
Yeah, I don't. We did talk back and forth earlier. I've got a number of books that I do want to submit. They are probably around $1,000 in their final value. So I was looking at the difference between sending them in standard, and standard turnaround time right now is a whopping 95 days for $75. Or I can bump it to express, pay $120. So I'm paying a $45 premium, but I get my books back now in 20 days.
Yeah.
And I think that $45 for a book that's over $1,000 is worth it to get the book back in a reasonable turnaround time.
If you're flipping it or if you're keeping it.
These are for inventory. Yeah, so I'm going to be selling these books.
It's eating into your margins. I don't see it happening yet, but if this continues, and it's going to at least continue through the end of the year, I mean, at the minimum, right?
Mhm.
If it continues, will the traditionally accepted practice of slabs always being more expensive than the same book raw, will that hold, or will people get so sick of having
Mhm.
to wait that the acceptable raw prices from a trusted grader will start to creep up? I don't know.
That's a good point. I think there may be the opposite too. I think people would rather buy graded books than try to buy a raw book and get it graded.
Yeah.
So for me, for example, I have been looking for specific books, and normally I'd buy them raw and get impressed, and then turn around and then a greater profit. But looking at it now, I'm just not willing to wait for it. It's easier for me to find an under fair market value book that's already graded. It's all the work is done for me. All I have to do is look at selling it, or it goes to the PC, what have you. So that's also an angle things may go.
So the end of this month is one of the first major cons in Southern California, Torpedo Con
Hmm.
in Hollywood, and CGC is going to be there. They're doing signature facilitations.
Okay.
They're taking books. If I walk my books into the convention and I submit there, do I get ahead of the queue? Do I get way behind in the queue for people that are mailing directly to Sarasota? How many people are going to submit books and shows now that the shows are starting up again? That's going to cause the queue to get even longer.
That's a good question. When last time I submitted books to CGC on site, I don't there wasn't this huge backlog that we have currently.
I was with you. It was last
Yeah.
January 2020.
And the books that I submitted came at a reasonable period of time. Now, with that huge backlog, I would be angry if I submitted books and they got ahead of books that that have been sitting in the queue for the past 2 months.
Well, speaking of books and the queue and the wait time, I did get a shipment in this week. And this is a book that I submitted back in March as a standard or a standard fast track. And I got it back last week.
Oh, jeez.
And it is a Scooby-Doo #1, 4.5.
Oh, that is gorgeous. That is such a hard book.
Ruby a cheese scoop. Yeah, it's a tough book. I'm happy with it. Cleaned and pressed it myself. It was probably a 3 before I worked my voodoo on it, and now I'm kind of thinking that's a PC book for a while.
Hmm.
Um,
Awesome.
Speaking of scarce books, I also got this last week, Captain America Comics #73. This is the last real issue of Captain America from the original 1940s run. With the next issue, it became Captain America's Weird Tales. It had a horror slant.
Really?
Yep. This is Cap 73. I got this from Hiram at Hiram's Collectibles.
Ah, awesome.
Thank you, Hiram. What'd you get?
Well, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd to begin with. I am a huge Dr. Aphra fan. So I've collected the Darth Vader #3, which is the first appearance of Dr. Aphra. and that's always been one of my favorite books. I've got a number of them that I have, but I've never had a copy of the variant for that book. There's a 1 in 25 variant.
Right.
And it's always been a little bit out of reach. And recently, Elite had a couple of them that the 9.8s that sold for about $2,200. I missed out on those. And then I decided, I don't necessarily need a 9.8. So I went out and Elite had this 9.6.
Wow.
So I love the cover. It's a gorgeous cover. This is going into my PC for now. But yeah, definitely this is one of those modern key books for Star Wars.
Well, and it's time for viewer mail.
You've
We're
got
talking about
mail.
CGC. We're talking about all of the drama surrounding it. And why not continue that conversation with our comment from AB27, who says, so I am an old school collector from the Copper Age. Copper Age is old school now?
Yes, it is.
Who got out of it sometime around the mid-90s, along with everybody else around that time. Me too.
Yeah.
Slabbing is a new concept to me. Here is the question. Why is it that people who want to get things signed don't just slab the comic first, then have the person doing the autograph sign on the slab? I mean, if the comic itself could be potentially compromised during that process, and it is assumed that the comic and slab will go forward in time as one unit, why not? I understand this. So some people do get their books signed on the slab. Problem is, you can't authenticate that. CGC will only authenticate signatures on the book that they witness, and then it has to be in the slab to get that yellow label.
Right, but why can't I was thinking about this when I was reading this. CGC controls the slab itself, the design of the slab. Why can't they make a slab that has an area that is specifically designed, built into the slab for a signature, and they can then protect it with another piece of plastic or what have you? And that signature would be recessed and behind the plastic, and they could authenticate that, and it's protected, but it doesn't touch the book.
Put it behind the plastic, and in between that and the inner well.
Oh, absolutely. Perfect.
Yeah, it's an extra step. There may be a technical reason why they don't do it. I'm not sure, but not a bad idea.
Yeah, I to me, that's preferable to having something scrawled over the cover of my comic book.
Well, our next piece of viewer mail is in response to your how to ship video last week, Richard.
Yeah, I did a faux pas during this. Robert DeVoe says, writing on the package could cause indents in the comic depending on how hard you press, unless you have an extra backing board in front of the comic. Yes, during the video, I actually showed, because part of my process is I have multiple layers of protection. And if, like the last live sale we did, I had 29 different packages that I had to individually address. So I would forget who I was packaging stuff for. So I've gotten to a habit of writing on the packaging the Instagram handle of the person that particular package goes. So I've got 3 or 4 different layers that all have that person's name. In the demo video, I used a ballpoint pen to do that signing. I never do that. I always use a Sharpie. I have a big fat Sharpie marker. I write it on the packaging. Never has the chance of causing an indent. I would agree. Do not use a ballpoint pen on your comic books. It's just as bad as using packing tape to secure the comic to the cardboard. So that was my mistake. I will. Anyone who gets a package from me, they'll see their name written with marker on the various layers of the packaging. So markers are acceptable. Ballpoint pens, no.
Do as I say, not as I do.
That's right.
My next piece of viewer mail comes from Lee Neeran. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Lee. Well, the purchase of CGC and the purchase of CBCS is historic. I think that's what he meant to say. Let's not forget the PSA was also purchased by another grading company. My concern is not who owns the product, but how can future generations even afford this hobby? My 6-year-old loves G.I. Joe and Transformers books, but he can only get them if we find them in the dollar bin beat up. The bigger concern should not be who owns the book grading companies, but how future generations will be able to afford the hobby, keeping it alive. Very good point, Lee. I will say books have always been expensive. It's not a new thing. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, golden age books were entirely unattainable. They were dreams of mine. I would love to own one copy of a Marvel mystery comics. It doesn't have to be #1. It could be number 58 or something. And I just never thought that would happen. But it didn't stop me from buying comics. It didn't stop me from getting into the new stuff that was coming out. It didn't stop me from loving Jack Kirby and Captain America. And now I'm a grown up and I can buy a Captain America number 73 from 1947. So I don't know, Lee. I hear what you're saying, but kids are pretty resilient. You drop them on their head, they tend to bounce.
Yeah, this is all. I think this is a case of relativity too. I remember when I got back into the hobby and I was buying books, $300 was kind of like, okay, I really have to want the book if it's going to cost more than $300. And I bought a 9.8 Thor 337 because it was signed by Walt. And it's got Beta Ray Bill on the cover. I paid $400 for that book, and that was a lot of money. But as this hobby has changed over the past couple of years, $400 is kind of like the entry level, as opposed to the cap.
Yeah.
And I know kids aren't going to be able to afford those kinds of books as you start off, but kids have a huge advantage, though. Kids can go to a newsstand. Can you imagine if you could do this back when we were kids? They can go to a comic book store, buy a comic book that retails like, let's say, this book.
They should not be Black Label books. No.
Oh yeah, they probably shouldn't buy Black Label. But they could buy a book that's it's $4 book. They could turn around in 2 weeks and sell it for $40.
Yeah, I mean, that is I think the only times that ever happened when we were coming up was with Howard the Duck #1.
Yeah, those special books, right?
If you were lucky to get one. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. By the way, don't drop your kids on their head. I was joking.
Please.
You've got one more piece of your mail. What is that?
All right, my last piece is from Ernesto Candia. If you put it in a priority envelope, we're talking about the way that I package, which is I send everything priority mail. You can't ship it media mail.
Bad, Ernesto.
First of all, that's true. If I am putting in a priority envelope, you have to ship it priority. And it's costed $8.25 for the priority mail service that I typically use for raw books, $15.50 for the graded books. Love it. It is a great bargain because they provide you the free materials. It comes with tracking. You can buy insurance if you want to. It's a great system. I love the post office. But media mail, which is a type of mailing service it's designed for periodicals and newspapers, things like that. Comic books do not qualify for media mail. If you ship comics as media mail and the post office discovers you're shipping comic books, the recipient is going to be charged a fee to make up for the postage.
And it's not just comic books. It's anything with advertising. That is the distinction. So media mail is for like books, like hard books and things like that. If it's got advertising and it gets flagged for inspection, which happens more than you think with media mail packages, because they're on to you. They're trying to make money. Mm-hmm. They open that package and they first of all, they're going to be pawing through your books to see if there's advertisements. And do you really want a postal inspector going through your comics that you're trying to sell to someone? And you get caught, they're going to have to pay for the difference. So Ernesto, we love you. Thank you for watching, but don't do media mail, man. It's not worth it.
Nope. And the other thing that I like about priority mail versus other mailing methods is it's 2 to 3 days delivery in the United States. If you buy a book from me, I want the book in your hands as soon as possible. It should be your standard as a seller. You want the book in the buyer's hands because I don't consider the money that the buyer paid me mine until it's released by them actually having the book. So
it's just a better customer experience, and you're going to have a happier person on the other end that's going to come back and spend more money with you. It's worth it.
Right.
Yeah, you'd saving a few pennies here and there. You know, it may be more than pennies, media mail versus priority mail, but the investment is worth it, Ernesto.
Yeah, don't send that AF-15 media mail, please.
No, please. All right. Speaking of amazing fantasy 15s and big books that are selling for big dollars, it is that time again for the Instagram Market Watch with elite_comics11. Here comes Ali. I can hear the music now, Richard. Dot, 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 dot. And here he is right now, our friend from elite_comics11 on Instagram. It is Ali. What's going on, Ali?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good to see you.
Just hanging. Doing a show, how we do every week. You've got some killer stuff this week. I mean, 1, 2, 3 keys. I counted.
It's been a crazy week on our page. I mean, as it's scorching hot across the country, so as the market, I mean, we sold, 5 amazing fantasy 15s in the past 14 days. But we're not talking about those because we talked about that, I think, last week. We talked about amazing fantasy 15. So thanks for having me back. As Elite Comics 11, we're Instagram's premier consignment page. So as we usually do, or always do every week, I'm going to feature a few of the sales that we had on our page this past week. So let's start at the top. It's Iron Fist number 14. It's a CGC 9.6 white pager. An older generation CGC case. It was a beautiful 9.6. There was definitely some discussion and about whether or not it might get the 9.8 if it was worked on and resubbed. It sold for $2,350. First Sabretooth, definitely picking up some heat lately.
Kind of almost on target with the last sale on GPA, which was $23.75. So someone saved $25 on shipping, or however you want to call it. Call it a discount. Older labels. Always interesting. It's a bit of a dice roll. You're kind of taking your chances. You're laying down your money and you're taking your chances. There are periods where CGC grading was much tougher than it is currently. There are also periods where CGC grading was much looser than it is now. So you can kind of tell if you join the CGC forums and you start going through some threads, you'll get some insight into this. And you'll be able to tell after you've done this for 800 years like we have from when a book was slabbed, if that was one of those tight periods of grading or one of those looser periods from grading. So, if I got an Iron Fist 14 9.6 in a label from that era, I would leave it.
I wouldn't do it. I'd leave it too. I mean, you're taking a huge gamble by cracking that book and trying to resub. Because, like you say, the grading is not any scientific scale. It is a number of humans that have come to a consensus on what consists of each grade, and that consensus can change over time based on who's doing the grading. So, if you crack that book, you are now subjecting that book to a whole new set of eyeballs that are different, most likely, from the ones that originally graded it, and you may get a lower grade through the process.
Yeah. 9.2, 9.4, maybe roll the dice, but a 9.6
now.
Close. It's too close.
You got to be careful there because there definitely is a premium built into 9.6 and such a small window of error when you're up in that grade between a 9.6 and a 9.8. So
one piece of dust in that.
one break check and for the grader from that morning, you don't know.
Yeah. Right. What else you got?
All right, so on Elite Comics 11, we've been doing deals of the day for years. All right, so these last two, I think they were just smoking hot deals. People stepped up, got some deal of the day. So this next one, Fantastic Four #1, it's restored. CGC 7.5 off-white to white pages. The restoration was color touch, pieces added, tear seals, reinforced, and reglossed. But it is a beauty of a book, 7.5, and somebody got a bargain, $12,000. I mean, in the world of what we've been seeing with FF1, that is a bargain for a copy that looks like that.
Yeah, the traditional thought is restored copies go for 50% of what unrestored copies. Now, when you're talking about major grail keys like this, that traditional thinking may go out the window. There's no GPA comparison here. The last sale comparable of a 7.5 professionally restored was in 2016. So, I don't even want to tell you what it was. It was $6,000. Who cares?
I know what we've been selling 1.8s for.
Right.
Completely irrelevant in this case. Now, the one interesting thing about this is there are some aspects to the restoration here that are non-reversible. So if someone was really hoping to get this and have the restoration removed, they're going to be in for, I wouldn't say they would be for surprise. If they're spending $12,000, I think they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We definitely talked through that. I make sure that, especially on the restoration books, that people are well aware of what the label says and even what that means. Happy to answer questions. I will say, like what you just said, John, the 50% thing, I think that's exactly what I would agree with that based on what we see, especially when you're dealing with non-reversible restoration.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it's just something really slight and people are really optimistic that it can be removed, you might do a little better than 50%, but at 50% for non-reversible seems right on point.
And there's even some that are less than 50, like if it's trimmed in any way, that's a huge ding. It's a huge against it. But Fantastic Four #1. Right. It's not coming up a lot. Richard and I were having a conversation before you joined us, Ali, about how the market is just making these mega keys just completely out of the reach of the average Joe. So we may see a resurgence in restored copies, gaining ground a bit.
I agree. I think 12 grand was a steal for this book, given that the ceiling that is possible, even for a restored Fantastic Four #1. I'm assuming the person bought it, given the restoration for the personal collection. That's the most logical. Somebody wanted a high grade, and a 7.5 is a high grade FF1. But, in 5 years, even as a restored book, that thing is going to be astronomical in terms of the value. So they're going to be able to recoup their investment and a profit regardless of the restoration.
Things are so hot right now that we're considering $12,000 a steal.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, in terms of just presentation, I mean, the alternative with $12,000 going after an FF1 right now is something that looks much, much different.
A 1.8, maybe it's
1.8. Yeah,
I hear you. So the next one is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So X-Men #1. So this book has had quite the past 5 to 6 months or so. It's been absolutely on fire. Like I said, we get deals. We've been doing deals of the day for years on our page. Things lined up. We offered another great deal and somebody snapped it up. So X-Men 1, CGC 3.5, cream to off-white, $13,900 on what I consider, it's definitely a blue chip, put it away and be happy later book. So
yeah, this is also a steal. You've got up listed right now a 1.5 for $9,995, and I'm counting my pennies trying to figure out because I think that's a great price. 13 grand, 13.5 for a 3.5 is just unbelievable.
A 3.5 sold in May for $15,600. So less, you got this for 2,000 and plus change less than that last sale. That is indeed a deal of the day / week / month / semester.
Not to diminish it at all. Maybe we just can have a quick chat about this topic, but copy's great. Cream to off-white pages. So, you might not set records with cream to off-white pages, in my experience, but definitely not 10 pages or anything, but a little note there. But yeah, still just an absolute steal, I think. So,
and keep in mind how CGC assigns a page grade. They don't look at the entire page and say, okay, the entire page is cream, therefore it is cream. If any part of the page is cream, whether it's the very outside edge, a corner, the interior, where the spine is, that's what assigns the grade. It's not the overall page quality. It is the entire page is taken into account. So sometimes you'll have a book that has light tan pages. Yeah, it's because there's a dust shadow on a part of the book. So you have to be, the only way to really tell if the entire page quality is cream to off-white is to crack that sucker open and look at it. I don't recommend
Please.
Well,
Please don't.
it is a nuance of the page rating that people need to be aware of.
That is interesting that you mentioned that. So right now we have a Detective Comics 38 up on our page, which is the first Robin. But I actually, it's a friend of mine actually selling it on our page. And I was actually with him at New York Comic Con when we submitted it for grading. And I remember on that raw copy, because it's light tan off-white pages. So why did they skip cream? It's because of what you were talking about. Around the edges on the pages, it was definitely a light tan, but everything else was a nice off-white. So that's why cream was skipped on that designation.
You see a lot of this with brittle pages because a corner is brittle or one part of the book is brittle, but the rest of it is supple. So you really kind of have to know the provenance of the book.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. This is killer.
Yeah.
The hits just keep coming.
Yeah, quite a week. Can't wait for next week. We'll do our part, have some more to report then.
Remind everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. If you got a book to sell, you're just looking to see some of these awesome books, hit the page, go to @elite_comics11 on Instagram. We'll help you out.
And we will not ask you to do the IG Market Watch dance with us.
Come on.
I'll leave that to the pros.
We respect you far too much. And we will see you next week.
All right.
He wouldn't do the dance with us.
No. We have to keep working on him.
Whatever, Ali. Well, since we had Ali, how about his partner, one of his many partners in crime, Bill, otherwise known as Trader Bill _comics on Instagram. He's here for the underrated book of the week segment. And here he is, the logins to Ali's Messina, the call to Ali's Oats. It is Bill, Trader _Bill. Trader, let me do that again. Trader Bill _comics on Instagram. How's it going, Bill?
Going good. Thanks for having me here, guys.
Are
welcome,
you
welcome.
Do you consider yourself the Hall or the Oats? I gave you the Hall.
I'll take call. Yeah, I'll be.
Okay.
If I'm a Hall or an Oats, I'm fine with that.
As long as you're taller than Oats, I think you would be a Hall. So, what is
as long as we're making beautiful music together, that's all that matters.
exactly? Oats is underrated, I will say. What is your underrated? Speaking of underrated, what is your underrated book of the week? You've got
underrated book of the week.
Yeah,
so many choices. I always love focusing on underrated books that move comic stories along, iconic comic stories. And gosh, so many. What springs to mind today is actually the history of Vibranium.
Ooh.
Yeah, so Vibranium actually, we know from the Marvel MCU movies in Wakanda, and that it actually has a similar comics origin, but it goes back a little bit farther to Daredevil issue number 13.
It was that early in the run.
Wow.
Yeah, Daredevil issue number 13. Daredevil's actually in the Savage Land.
With Ka-Zar. That's the cover where he's coming out of like a manhole, right?
I think, yeah, that is it. Yeah.
I know that cover. John Romita and Jack Kirby cover. Very nice. What is it that happens in Daredevil 13 that establishes this Vibranium?
So actually, Vibranium it supposedly comes from space. There's a meteor and it landed in the Savage Land, but it wasn't the Vibranium as we know it. It was a Vibranium that actually can destroy any metal, any known metal. And
the anti-metal.
Yeah, it was later known as anti-metal. That's right. And so it was actually part of the story. A guy had half of a medallion, and the guy had the other half of the medallion. And they were supposed to be able to combine them. And anyways, Vibranium played a part in that story, and then but then it wasn't picked up again until Fantastic Four issue number 53. So Daredevil 13 is important, but less or so to really getting to Fantastic Four issue number 53. Which
It's interesting because Jack Kirby gets a lot of credit for doing the plotting and introducing things. And he envisioned vibranium as being a giant mound in Wakanda. There's a giant mountain of vibranium. But this Daredevil 13, which is scripted by Stan and drawn by John Romita and possibly plotted by John Romita, if you want to really stick to Stan, kind of established this beforehand.
yeah, but it had different properties because then they, when it picked it back up, I mean, Stan was writing Fantastic Four, around 53, and so that they made it so in Wakanda, similar. There's a giant meteor, and that was the source of the vibranium. But in the Wakandan variety of vibranium, it absorbed sound waves, absorbed any sort of like impact, exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's how they've used it in the movies. But
it also there's a lesson to be learned from Jack Kirby's run on Black Panther when he was doing the Black Panther series in the late 70s, that if you just walk into the vibranium mound, you become a giant pink monster that can beat everybody up and claim to be the king of Wakanda. Until the Black Panther's family, known as the Black Musketeers, hey, I didn't write it, helps you defeat the big pink monster.
I guess people actually got vibranium like poisoning, and they got special powers from vibranium. And the man ape, they ate white apes and became powerful, and it all tied back to the vibranium.
It's all problematic, and
let's go back to the Black Musketeers.
Let's go back to the big pink thing.
MIC.
A family-friendly show, people. Come on.
You gotta love the 60s, you gotta.
That was the 70s, so Jack was the thing about Jack is it seemed like he was flying high, but he was as straight edge as they come. So it's just from his fertile imagination. Daredevil 13. Also, I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's kind of a tough book in grade.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's not an easy and not one that's on a lot of people's radar unless they're like being a completist about a Daredevil run.
We know someone.
Yes.
DD Comics fan.
I mean, Ka-Zar has his fans and Zabu, and that they spend a lot of time in X-Men books and the Savage Land and everything else. But so Vibranium, not the Vibranium we mainly know, but FF53 is a great book too, and I think it's probably on a lot more people's radar because it's like the origin of Black Panther. And,
It's so funny how they kept trying to make Ka-Zar happen, and I have to wonder if that has more to do with the publisher at the time, Martin Goodman, than from Lee and Kirby, because Ka-Zar was a pulp hero that Martin Goodman's publishing company was responsible for in the 30s. That was hugely popular, Tarzan ripoff. He ran in Marvel Mystery Comics for years. And so I wonder when the Marvel Universe was picking up steam, if Martin Goodman said, bring back Ka-Zar. He was popular, and they just kind of had to do what they had to do. Here he is in X-Men. Here he is in Daredevil. Here's a reprint book, giant size 2 issues, in this late 60s. And then he had a nice run in Astonishing Tales, where a lot of this Savage Land mythos, including this anti-metal vibranium prototype, show up.
That's the best description of Ka-Zar's appearances I've heard in a long time. That makes a lot of sense.
That they were required by the public.
Right. Well, early in the Daredevil run, early in the X-Men run. I mean, it was just like you had to have your Ka-Zar pop
I can't imagine anybody sitting there going, Ka-Zar is my favorite. I love Ka-Zar.
I loved X-Men, but I knew it was destined for greatness when Ka-Zar showed up.
Even Chris Claremont, he had to bring in the Savage Land and Ka-Zar into his run. It's like, there's been one truly great Ka-Zar run. And that was the direct sales title in the 80s by Brett Anderson. It was really well done. It was about him and Shanna just kind of being, a normal married couple in the jungle. And it had a sense of humor to it. And then Mark Waid and Andy Kubert had a run in the late 90s, which was really strange because Ka-Zar got to fight Thanos.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Wow.
The world's most unbalanced fight.
So, Ka-Zar versus Thanos. We're going to make Ka-Zar happen no matter what, whether you like it or not, people.
Was that an issue of what the?
No, it should have been, though. But, the cover's amazing. It's like Ka-Zar, like, and Thanos is like, oh, no.
Ka-Zar, Herald of Galactus.
Yeah, I do think they retconned that later, that it wasn't really Thanos.
I mean, I do have faith that Ka-Zar could have at least taken down the Thanos copter.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, did anybody spot the copter in Loki?
I might have, yeah. Wow.
Yes, that was awesome. That was full of all kinds of great Easter eggs.
And did anybody see the What If trailer yet with my man Howard, my Duck Howard, I should say?
No, I did not.
Yeah, dropped today. So, Bill, we've talked enough during your segment.
No, this has been great, guys. Yeah, I love talking comics continuity and history, and I like the takeaway today. Ka-Zar, you have to have a Ka-Zar appearance if you made it, and Daredevil 13 is when Daredevil made it and introduced a little thing called Vibranium. Beautiful
art too. If you've never seen that John Romita Daredevil run, it's just gorgeous, and you can see why he got Spider-Man right after that. Bill, thanks. Where can people find you?
People can find me. Stop by Elite Comics 11 on Instagram sometime. Check us out. We do some fun things there, and with #1 Instagram community-powered comic sales page, and you can find me personally at Trader Bill _comics on Instagram as well, and yeah.
It's an Elite Comics episode. We just had Ali on earlier with the
that guy. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I do want to remind people they're not paying us.
That's right.
We haven't gotten 1 red cent from these guys. All right. Thanks, Bill. We appreciate it.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right. That is going to do it for another bonus episode. Rich, you're going to be on vacation for Monday's episode, aren't you?
Yes, I will. We'll have a special guest star.
Rich is look at how secure Rich is in his hosting duties, that he has such job security that he's not afraid he's going to get replaced. We will have a special guest. It's an audition to replace Richard. Never. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's someone that if you are a fan of the show and you've been following us for the last year and a half, you will recognize him immediately and you'll be hopefully pleased. So until then, are you following us on Facebook and Instagram? You should.
Please do.
Bronze and Modern Gods. Richard, what's this thing down here?
Well, that's our website, bronzeandmoderngods.com.
I say it every week. I'm going to update it. I swear to God, someday.
Maybe I'll get off my lazy ass and do it.
Yeah. Aren't you like a web developer and a coder and stuff? Leave it to me. Whatever. Thanks, Rich, and everybody else. We'll see you next time.
Everybody stay safe.